The name Alfa Romeo is very much linked to bright red sports cars, and rightfully so, given the marque's back catalogue. Still, over the years, Alfa Romeo has offered many excellent alternatives to the classic Rosso Alfa 130, so I've decided to pick 50 of my favorite shades and put together a sort of post-war history of Alfa Romeo cars through their paint colors. Nowadays, this Giulietta saloon with its candy-like pinkish color is a favorite among visitors to Alfa Romeo's museum. Still, this shade wasn't popular at all with buyers in period. That shouldn't come as a surprise though, as Alfas were, to all intents and purposes, family cars, and relatively expensive ones at that. Therefore, most were sold in more subdued colors like azzurro acqua di fonte, which means spring water blue, or the classic bianco spino white, which remained a favorite for Giulia buyers too, the civilian ones, that is. For the Polizia and Carabinieri, the Giulia wore the grigio verde made so iconic by period Italian B-movies. The Polizia cars changed color in 1976, with Alfa Romeo using several slightly different Azzurro Polizia over the years. The Carabinieri instead switched to the current dark blue livery in 1971, and, in case you wondered, the color is Blue Lord 438. By this time, however, Alfa Romeo's color chart had become broader and wilder, and by 1972 you could buy a Giulia, a 2000 Berlina or a GTV in the incredible Prugna 525, possibly the most over-the-top Alfa color ever. Speaking of GTVs, one of my favorite combos is Ochra 109 yellow with black Tex Alfa vinyl interior. Coach-built Alfas, whose bodies were manufactured by the likes of Pininfarina, Bertone or Zagato, were often offered in colors not available on other models. I really love Giallo Prototipo 119, a Pininfarina shade available on the Spider between 1970 and 1977. It's called Prototipo because it had been previously used on Pininfarina's stunning prototype based on the 33 Stradale and shown at the Paris Motor Show in 1969. Alfa Romeo's V8 Grand Tourer, the Montreal, was available in two different shades of orange, a solid Arancio 501 or a metallic Arancio Metallizzato 502. The Montreal could also be had in two different shades of green, Verde Metallizzato 224 and the solid Verde Medio 223. The latter was also available on the Junior Zagato, whose strikingly modern lines were penned by the great Ercole Spada. The Junior Zagato was presented in 1969, and the car in this press shot wears an exclusive shade of yellow, simply called Giallo Zagato 117. In fact, most of the Junior Zagato's color palette was unique to the model, with even the plain white and red having specific names and codes. One further color option that the Montreal shared with the Junior Zagato's palette was Blue Medio 328. Although both cars were available in a very period metallic shade, those were two different colors in fact, Champagne Metallizzato 115 and Oro Metallizzato 826 respectively. In general, the Alfa Romeo colors I love the most are those from the 1970s, when a wide selection of solid colors and many gorgeous metallics joined the fray. Azzurro Le Mans 348 was Alfa's take on the classic French racing blue, and many Alfetta and Giulia saloons wore this shade in period. But a personal favorite of mine is Giallo Piper 116, whose name refers to a famous Rome nightclub. But it's impossible to talk about 1970s Alfa Romeo without the Alfa Sud. The fact that Alfa's new compact car was manufactured near Naples rather than Milan inspired its color palette. full of references to the geography of the Campania region. For example, Bianco Capodimonte, a solid white with a slightly warmer overtone than the classic Bianco Spino, referred to the traditional Neapolitan porcelain production. Blue Posillipo instead took its name from an affluent residential quarter of Naples and its stunning views of the Mediterranean. Meanwhile, Verde Ischia and Blue Procida were named after these two islands in the Gulf of Naples. However, by the end of the decade, Alfa Romeo's color charts had lost many of those brighter shades. This was an era pretty much dominated by brownish tones, from the very popular Avorio and Rosso Veneziano to the darker and nowadays embarrassingly un-PC Testa di Moro, which literally means African's head. But my favorite is the metallic Luci di Bosco, whose romantic-sounding name means forest lights. In 1981, the special edition of the Alfa Sud signed by fashion legend Valentino Garavani had, as one would expect, its own specific color, bronzo metallizzato 848. In my view, Alfa Romeo's 1980s colors were, for the most part, rather uninspiring. The cars were cool, mind you, but I think the 75, for example, could really have used some nicer colors. One shade only late 75s got but went on being very successful on 33s is the metallic Verde Mirto. Another smash hit was Rosso Proteo, which took its name from the concept car presented to great acclaim at the 1991 Geneva Motor Show. By 1992, the days of the classic Spider were sadly numbered, but at least it could be had in the elegant Verde Inglese 306 and the bright Giallo Ginestra 258. However, the latter wasn't exclusive to Alfa Romeo. It was used on other Fiat Group models like the Delta Integrale and the Fiat Barchetta, then returned to the newer Alfa Spider of the 916 generation. These cars have had some of the best Alfa colors ever, like the pearlescent Verde Oasi, Rosso Miro and the yellow metallic Giallo Zoe. Between 1994 and 1998, the Spider could also be had in the kind of weird Verde Acido, but few buyers took the chance. But the most iconic shade of recent Alfa history must be the famous Azzurro Nuvola, the metallic sky blue that assumed different nuances depending on the lighting condition. A rather costly option on the 156 and later the GTV and 166, Azzurro Nuvola indirectly owed its existence to Fiat Group CEO Paolo Cantarella, as he vetoed painting the 1996 Nuvola concept car in any kind of red, forcing the Centrostile Alfa Romeo to come up with a worthy alternative. Although Azzurro Nuvola took everyone's attention, the 156 launch color actually was Azzurro Achille, a shade directly inspired by the delicate pastel colors typical of the 1950s Giulietta. Unfortunately, the later 166 launch color was the much less inspiring Grigio Sterling, when Alfa's flagship would have certainly been better served by the pearlescent Bianco Aurora. Alfa Romeo's most recent past has been pretty much characterized by the captivating triple-coat Rosso Competizione that, after launch on the limited edition supercar, could be had on the 159 and Giulietta as well. In 2020, the Giulia and the Stelvio Quadrifoglio were made available with the gorgeous Verde Montreal, but my favorite remains the stunning Blue Misano, which suits the Giulia to perfection. And you, which are your favorite Alfa colors? Please let me know in the comments below, and while you are there, don't forget to subscribe to Roadster Life. Thank you!